You are listening to the Intelligent Racer Podcast, where we look to educate and entertain the endurance racing community through discussions with racing professionals and elite age groupers.
In today's episode, we speak with Michael Wardian about his running career. We talk about him recently running the Boston Marathon, Barkley Marathons, and other races. I hope you enjoy. Michael, welcome to the podcast. How you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. So first off, you just finished up running the Boston Marathon. How did that go for you?
It went really well. It was a hot day, but luckily I've done a lot of racing this year and in various conditions of heat and cold, and so I'd run in some really hot places, so it wasn't as hot as Dubai or Sydney in the summer, and I was able to run pretty well. I ended up around 227, I think 45th overall, maybe the 40th guy. So 5 women were ahead of me at the end of the race, I guess.
Very cool.
And yeah, man, I felt really strong. I was hoping to be a little bit higher up on the podium for the Masters category, but Abdi and Meb moved up into the 40-year-old category. So the competition was pretty stiff this year, actually.
Yeah. And so how many times have you run Boston?
Oh my gosh, man, it's so funny. I usually just when someone asks me that, I'm like, I don't know, like 10 or something. But I actually looked it up today because someone had asked me, and it was my 20th anniversary of running the Boston Marathon, and I've run it 14 times since my first run in 1997.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool, man. I knew it was like, I don't know, I knew it was a fair amount, but I didn't know it was 14. So next year will be my 15th anniversary or 15th time running Boston. So yeah, it's neat. It's almost like I'm trying to get this sweatshirt at the JFK 50 miler. If you do it 10 times, you get this like old school, awesome like t-shirt that says like 500 mile club or something. And I so want that thing. And everyone's like, how close are you? And I'm like, I don't know, 8. I've done 8 or 9, or I don't know. I don't know. So I got the next thing I need to actually try to figure out is how close I am to the sweatshirt. I think I'm close.
So why don't we take a step back and just, quickly, what is your athletic background? I mean, how did you get into running originally?
Basically to run the Boston Marathon once. I've told the story a couple times, but I was in college, like my junior year of college. I went home with my friend Vince Boyson, and for Easter, which is kind of interesting because Easter was during Boston this year, and his mom had done the Boston Marathon, and she had her little unicorn medal and her space blanket, and she had just showed me some pictures of it. It was the first time I'd actually met someone in real life that had run a marathon, and I just thought, like, I'd always wanted to do it, but I didn't know anyone that had actually done it before. And so it gave me hope. Like, it wasn't like this, hermit that lived in the mountains, or like a rail thin, runner that you see on TV, like winning the race. It was just, a regular, my friend's mom. And I was like, wow, if Vicky, her name's Vicky Boyson, if Vicky can run the marathon, I could probably do that too. And so that's what kind of inspired me to try to, give me the motivation to try to do it. And then she was nice enough to give me a training program, and that was in like 1995. And I trained until 1996. And when I graduated from college in 1996 and ran I didn't actually know you had to qualify for the Boston Marathon. That's how naive about running I was. I was a lacrosse player growing up, and just only ran to play lacrosse, and qualified for the Boston Marathon in 1996 at the Marine Corps Marathon. And then I ran my first Boston in 1997. And as I was saying before we got on, I actually looked up all my results today. So it was the 14th time I've done Boston, and it was my slowest one in 2:54. But the first time I broke 3 hours was at the Boston Marathon, and I've broken it at 3 hours every time since at Boston. And it's been an incredible journey from then and as a regular, runner to now being an elite level and professional athlete. So it's been pretty cool to just see the journey start from this little conversation I had with my friend's mom so many years ago. And it's taken me all over the world and to all 7 continents and the North Pole and everywhere in between. And it's the chance that I've had to do everything I've wanted to do and keep getting just incredible opportunities after incredible opportunities, and getting to share the world with my family through the running. It's just been insanely cool, and I feel super fortunate that I went home with Vince that day, and that his mom was kind enough to give me a hand getting started, and that I was able to kind of run with it. No pun intended, I guess.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's he kind of stumbled into it, and then obviously it's turned into a passion and something you really excel at. So, one of the things that I, is notable about you is that you pretty much run every distance, every surface, mountains, obviously marathon, road races, everything. I mean, what's your feeling on that? Is that just because that keeps you kind of entertained, or do you feel that mixing it up makes you a better all-around runner? Or, why is it that you don't focus on one thing, but kind of do it all?
Well, I think I want to see what I'm capable of. I definitely think that doing different distances and different events and different surfaces and different challenges, like, running up buildings, or like last year I was able to run up the Eiffel Tower, and, running on treadmills or pushing my kids in strollers, or I ran blindfolded last weekend at the 5K before the marathon to raise awareness for people with visual impairments and blindness for the Massachusetts Institute of the Blind. And like, it keeps it fun and keeps it exciting and keeps it different. But I think it also helps you become a better athlete, because there's things you learn doing different events that you can use for another event, and the speed from the road can transition to the trails, and the strength you gain in the trails can transition to the road. At the end of the race in Boston this year, it was hot and I was really struggling, but I knew, like, oh man, this is going to be over in 15, 20 minutes, or it's not going to be another like 30 hours or something. So like, it's all relative, and you can kind of use those hard fought and won experiences to fuel you in whatever you're doing. And even, a 5K can give you that kind of leg speed that you need at the end of a trail race, when, somebody's like last year at Ultra Trail de Mont Blanc, I ended up passing like 5 or 6 people in the last, I don't know, mile and a half. So like, and it was all because, like, as soon as I could get on the surface and be able to run, like everyone else was just interested in finishing, and I was able to like pretend I was at a 5K at the beach, and it's only a mile and a half back to the bar where it started. And so like having those kind of courses and knowledge and the way your body feels at different points in a race is always good. And I think they all help you become a more rounded athlete. And I mean, even this year I tried the Barkley Marathon, where you have to go out and navigate, and you're in the woods and it's not marked. And I didn't even make it around. I made it around once, but I didn't make it around in time. And so it's the first time I ever chased a cutoff and didn't make it. And it was incredibly awesome. Like it was one of the coolest things I think I've ever done, and probably one of the most rewarding. And if you looked at it, you'd say like, oh, that was a complete failure. But for me, it was a great way to kind of explore what I'm capable of, what I need to do better, and what I can improve on. And like just having that knowledge is going to make me a better athlete, and it's going to transition. It's not just, something that applies to racing, but it also applies to real life. Like, sometimes you're not going to be, it's not going to go the way that you want. And, it's how you deal with it that really determines, what you're going to take from it. And, I could have just stopped when I knew I wasn't going to make it, but if you want to get better, you got to keep going. And that's what I did. And, that applies to real life too. You got to do what you can with what you got. And, sometimes it doesn't go the way you want. And if you give up every time, then I don't know. I don't see there's no way to grow in that.
Right. And, I have so much respect for your attitude about Barkley because, obviously you've had an incredible running career, and we'll get into some of the races and stuff in a minute. But there were expectations going into that race from the outside, at least in terms of, okay, you got Michael Wardian. He's done a lot of amazing things, and he's going into arguably one of the, if not the hardest trail race on earth. And there's probably, I don't know if you felt pressure, but there's certainly some expectations that, okay, this guy is probably can go out there and who knows if he can finish, but he can definitely do well. And then it obviously was the outcome was a little bit unexpected, but you had such a positive attitude about it and said, hey, it's a learning experience. You had a lot of fun. I read that you met some interesting people, and just that's really inspiring for people because, like you said, you could have been, just walked off the course and said, it wasn't my day, I'll come back, and that's it. But that's totally not what you did. And I really respect that. Oh,
thanks. Yeah, no, it was awesome. Yeah. I mean, I think one of the coolest things was meeting Ann and James and Remy and getting to play in the woods with them and getting a chance to bash around and see the course. And I know what I need to do for the next time if I have the opportunity. And and what's crazy is it was just a day wwhere every time there was a chance to make a mistake, I made it. It was if you've ever had one of those days.
Oh yeah.
It was just yeah, it was just everything you do is wrong. It was I don't know. It was insane. And then it was all of us together, and it was cool. It was the first time I'd ever been in we were in the race separately, but we formed this group. And so it was kind of my first real adventure race with people. I'd done some shorter stuff like Rogaines and New Zealand with, buddies, and, they had always done all the navigating, but by the end, we're all navigating and figuring out the directions. And for me, it was a really big deal. It helped me, be able to do that and feel confident in what I was doing. And, I'd done some stuff beforehand to get ready. And, but what most people do, and, what kind of the smart thing probably would have been to do is just go with a veteran, which is what I thought I was doing, but it didn't end up that way. And, that's how, people get a fun run on their first time, or,
right.
Make it around on the first time, is you go with somebody that's knows exactly where they're going. Cause that really makes the big difference at that kind of race. And, but if you don't go, they said at camp, if you make sure you go with a veteran, and then the second thing is make sure go with a veteran that knows where they're going. And
yeah.
If there's a lot of people that are veterans, but they've only seen the course from a certain way or at a certain time of day, and it's a tricky place to get around. And so, even when you've done it, even Gary had trouble at the end, and it's for real. And, it's a race where you can make a couple of mistakes, but you make too many and you're not going to make it. And, so yeah, that being said, I feel like I have a good sense of what needs to happen. But again, you could just have crazy weather like they had, where we got with fog and rain, and, that just ups the level of difficulty and the chance of making a mistake. And again, it's purposely designed to put you at your absolute limit, and that's what's cool about it. And if you're not up for the task, then you're not going to make it. So yeah, I don't know, man. It was super cool though. I see why people get so excited about it, and yeah, I'd love to try again or keep trying until I get the result that I'm looking for.
Yeah, yeah, and I recently interviewed John Kelly, obviously after his finish, and he spoke about how he was one of the, I guess, the vets that people were kind of depending on to navigate, and he said the fog pretty much blew that up, and he kind of felt bad about it. But I can only imagine what the chaos was like, and you're in the dark, there's fog, you couldn't see a few feet in front of you, and you're you're in the deep forest in unmarked trails trying to find books. So I could only imagine what the experience was.
Funny. Yeah, it was crazy because, he went off the front with Gary, and I was kind of hanging back, and ended up like they even got lost going to the first book, and I was one of the first three guys to get to the first book, and it was like the craziest feeling, and I was like, what? And then, John and Gary come charging over because they're just, insanely focused, and that's when I lost my race. Basically went from like, I'll just stick with the guys that I'm with to like, I'm going with them. And then I went with them for like 10 minutes. And then it just came to this like crazy, ridiculous off trail, like charging down like a 85% grade. Like you would just look at that and be like, there's no way anyone's going down there. And they just like went up to it and jumped over the edge. And I was like, and by the time I got to the bottom, they were just gone. And I was like, I'm hosed. And so that was a very, very, I don't know. It's one of those things where so many races are, there's so many binary decisions you make in a race. It's, do I eat? Do I stop? Do I, change my shoes? Do I, put ice on my neck and all those things? Like, you can make a decision, 5 hours before it has a consequence. And that's what I did. Is I made a decision in like 3 seconds that changed the course of my race. But, that's how it goes in racing. Nothing's guaranteed. And, that's, you got to live with what the consequence of, making that choice. Like I should have just, tried to go with somebody that wasn't as fast. But at that point I was like, I'm ready for it. And then they ditched me.
Yeah.
And so that's like, it's called getting scraped actually. And it's like, it's not on purpose. It's just like, you saw how close it was for them finishing. So like, they you just can't wait for people. It's, either you stay together or you don't. And if you can't stay, then you got to figure it out. And so I was actually, it seemed like, this is, I only made it once and I got timed out or whatever, but I actually think it was probably, looking back at it now and from what I learned from doing it as with a group of basically people that had no idea what they were doing. So like every time we'd come somewhere, we'd have to, try to figure it out, was that I already have the experience of like the person that's made it to the fourth or fifth loop where you're kind of by yourself and you're having to figure it out on your own. So, that was actually kind of nice is, there was a group of us and we're all trying to figure it out on our own. And then we're confirming like, what do you think? Like, is that right? Like, is that the same thing you're seeing? And so, I have that kind of experience. And, the only problem is like, it would have been nice to at least go 2 loops so that you can see it going one way and the other way.
Right.
Because it looks different. So anyhow, I think, it's going to be a long process probably, but that's, anything that worthwhile takes a while. It's pretty much true. Like there's exceptions, like Jared finished on his first time, but he's just kind of like an insanely badass. But like most everybody else, it takes a couple times to, figure it out and then, kind of, get the training and do, and you got to kind of, there's got to be a little bit of luck in there too. You got to have some, fairly decent weather. If it's too hot or too cold, I think that would be pretty tough, but we had pretty good conditions. I think it got a lot worse after I got timed out from the looks of it, but that's kind of part of the gig. And like the other thing is like, I really wanted to see what it'd be like I think the longest I've ever raced is 34 hours. So like just what it would feel like to go into that, 40 hour, 48 hour, 50, 60 hour range and see if I can still function, or if I'm a complete zombie at that point. I don't know how to do anything anymore. So that was a bit of a bummer not to get that experience, but hopefully I will in the future.
Yeah. And I recently on the podcast had Nick Holland on, and for him, it was a journey as well, I think, for most people. And he basically did a fun run his first year. So he came in the second year kind of cocky, admittedly, and didn't finish, and kind of bruised his ego a little bit, but then came back that third year and he obviously finished. So, it definitely, for everyone, for most people, it's a journey, and obviously you got to add some tools to the toolbox and experience the course, and it takes time. So it's totally understandable. So, one of the things that you're known for, and I forgot who it was when on one of the interviews I did, you were brought up as the only person who's capable of doing the things you do because you have such resilience physically. I was just curious. I mean, do you do anything, special from a recovery and injury prevention perspective, or do you think it's more genetic, or what is it that you can do things like, you did 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents. You did, I think I read 47 different running races in 2016. I mean, the kind of volume you're able to do and the recovery you have is, I admire it, because I'm tipping this, I guess the age scales, getting into my older years, and my body is slowly deteriorating. I can't recover as quickly. So I want to know the secret.
Yeah, I mean, I just turned 43, so yeah, I'm in the masters category or the veterans, depending on what part of the world you're in. And I've always had the capacity for and I think the mental resilience to race a lot, and it really gets me excited and motivated, and I think that helps a lot. And then I think that the tips that I usually give to people and what I try to embody is not to do what comes so natural after you finish a long event, or any event really, is like, okay, sweet, where can I sit down and rest? Right. Like, if you can keep moving after the race, and then the next day, if you can get out and do something, it doesn't have to be tempo run or mile repeats, but if you can get out and move for 30 to 40 minutes, and if you can jog, even better. That I feel like really helps to get the body moving and to get everything back in line, and then you can start getting back into your regular training and try to hydrate afterwards. And I also like to give myself some kind of treat after the race. So if you were thinking about, for me, a lot of times it's like something that most people wouldn't be excited about, like an awesome salad or piece of pizza, or some fruit, or I really like fresh cold pressed juices that are like ridiculously expensive normally, but like a $10 beet juice or something. But there's also I have almond butter sponsor, so I'll have a big thing of almond butter and honey, and I don't know, whatever your body is craving. So make sure you reward yourself for a hard effort, and then try to get back to regular training as quickly as possible. But obviously keeping in mind that you did do something big, and if something feels like kind of wonky, then don't push it too hard. And it's about figuring out what you're capable of. Some people, it really crushes them for a while, depending on what distance they raced and how hard. And so experiment a little bit and see what you're capable of, and don't let your mind tell your body it can't do something.
Right. No, I think that's great advice. So, one thing I wanted to ask you about, because I'm based in New York City, so you've done some interesting things in New York City, obviously the marathon and stuff, but one thing you did was the Great New York 100 Miler, and you won it. I'm just curious, how did you like that race? What was that like? And, just talk about that for a second, because it's not one I hear a lot about, but obviously I'm in New York City, so I'm aware of it.
It's like one of the coolest things I've ever done. I was actually thinking, like, I need to look up and see what the dates are this year, because I I love it so much that I want to do it again, and I want to try to set the course record. And I missed it last year because it's just such a cool like alley cat kind of bootleg race. But they do a great job with it. Like Phil is the race director, and it starts and finishes in Times Square, and it goes places in New York that I didn't even know existed. Like it's all in the city, and it's never like, you're not just running around like Central Park or like a little loop. You're, going through, I think, 4 of the 5 boroughs. So like Queens, Brooklyn, the Bronx, Manhattan. Yeah. And the only place you don't go, I think, is Staten Island.
Yeah. That would require a swim or a ferry, I guess.
Yeah. Or the bridge being closed, which I don't think they do except for the marathon.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it's pretty incredible. It's like so amazing. Like you run through like Flushing Meadows and like and it's, what's also cool is like you can just go in like, I didn't actually do this because I thought I might need to, so I brought money, but you can just go into like a convenience store if you wanted to, or get pizza or a Slurpee or whatever. But like there was like aid stations that they had set up, and you can, it's just one of the coolest things I think I've done. So I would love to do it again. And it's mostly road. There's, one section where you go through like Van Cortlandt Park that's a little bit on trails, but it's stunning, really. It's a great way to explore New York, and it's in June, and so it's hot, but I don't know, just really, really cool.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I loved it, man. I would love to do it again. And I don't know, there's nothing cooler than, starting at like 5 a.m. in New York City. And I think I finished around 8:39 at night. And you start right in Times Square, and you finish right in Times Square, and nobody knows what's going on. Like, it's like you've just run 100 miles and you're like coming into Times Square, and nobody's there except there's maybe like 10 people, and there's like a little piece of like tape on the ground and like a lawn chair, and it's just like so awesome. And like I have this really cool picture of my son and I just kind of sitting there when it's done, and just enjoying like New York, being alive around us. And it was just insanely cool, and I'd love to do it again.
Yeah, that's one thing I love about New York City is that everyone has their thing going on, and so nothing is overly important. So, as an example, I ran through Times Square with Pete Kostelnick as he was finishing up his 3,000 miles or whatever, and no one had a clue. Or there's some people cheering, of course, but most people are just walking by being like, why are these, 5-6 people running through Times Square, and they're, and no one cared. And, little did they know this guy just ran, 3,000 miles or whatever. So, it's
and set a world record.
Yeah, exactly. Set a world record. And, everyone is just walking around, enjoying themselves, looking at the, all the lights and all that kind of thing. So I guess we're almost out of time here. So I guess one final question for you would be, for the rest of 2017, you have a lot on tap. I mean, what are you looking forward to here? And you obviously have Western States and Hard Rock. I think I just read that you're going to do ultra in the Gobi Desert. I mean, so just give us a couple things you have on tap for 2017, and what you're looking forward to and why.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be incredible. I mean, it's been an incredible 2017 already. I've done a lot of fun things with the 7 marathons, 7 continents, 7 days, and then
of which you set a world record, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So congrats. That's awesome.
And yeah, thanks, dude. Yeah. Oh, and what was even cooler was I did my first 200-mile week. So like when I finished the 7 marathons, I ran like an extra 17 miles to get 200 miles for the week. So that was like my biggest week ever. So I'm stoked about that. But hopefully, I'm going to do this race called the Ultra Gobi 400K, which is 248 miles across the Gobi Desert on the Tibetan Plateau in like Western China, which looks really neat. It's kind of self-navigation, self-supported, so very closely paralleling Barkley, in that the only thing is like it's you have like a GPS unit and like a sat phone, and it's kind of like fancy in that aspect, but it's kind of like you decide when you want to sleep and eat, and I think I'm pretty excited about that. But I got to say, I'm like kind of really over the moon that I finally got into the Hard Rock 100-miler.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that'll be in July. That was like a 6-year, put your name on the list, wait, get rejected, put your name on the list, wait, get rejected. And so those guys have been nothing but awesome. Like, I've heard just incredible things, and everybody just gushes about it. So I'm kind of unbelievably excited to check that out and see what it's all about. Obviously Western States is, the big dance. So it'll be fun to be there and get to be on the same course with so many incredible athletes, doing what they can do. And, I feel like I've never really had my best race at Western States. So I'd really like to improve on what I've been able to do there. And then next weekend, I'm actually headed to Napa to go out for the Big Sur Marathon to try to win the Boston to Big Sur. And, I think I might have a good shot to actually win the marathon. So like try to win Big Sur would be great. I'd won it before, so it'd be nice to be a repeat winner. There's obviously competition, so we'll see how that goes. And then I go to Kosovo for the U.S. State Department. I'm a fitness ambassador for them, and going to go over there, and really excited about running a half marathon, but more importantly to help raise awareness for the He for She campaign and gender equality issues. And that's going to be in like May 10th through the 15th. And then I fly home, stay home with my family for the day, and then fly to Australia for the Ultra Trail Australia, which is in the Blue Mountains outside Sydney and part of the Ultra Trail World Tour. And I've been friends with those guys for a while now. So it'll be super cool to go over there and get to race that race and run up some crazy flights of stairs at the end and get a chance to check out the Blue Mountains. And then I'm still kind of debating what I'm going to do the rest of the year. Maybe a trip to the Kauai Marathon, and a speaking engagement for the military in the Hawaiian Islands, which I think will be really neat. And then hopefully some marathons in the fall, and then 2018 is going to be here before you know it. So yeah, it'll be pretty insane. And I'm always looking for cool things. So if anyone's got any ideas, let me know.
Well, you have a hell of a schedule for 2017, so I'm looking forward to continuing to watch you and see you do these races. But I guess the good news on the Ultra Gobi is you said you wanted to test sleep deprivation, so that would be a second opportunity in the year if you didn't want to sleep much and go, I guess, 48 plus hours or whatever without sleep. So you could do a quasi Barkley experience.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I was talking to. I have some friends that have done it. Brian Powell from I Run Far has done it, and my friend Harvey Lewis has done it. And so, yeah, I'm definitely curious to see, like, should I keep going and just see how far I can get? Or, I don't sleep a lot anyhow. So, like, if I sleep 4 hours, that's really good. So, like, do I just, run as far as I can and then try to sleep 4 hours, and then, I feel fresh, and then just go again and then try to sleep 4 hours, or only sleep like 20 minutes and see how that goes. So, like, I don't know, that kind of really excites me. And then I actually am kind of stoked. I met David Johnson, who's done the Iditarod in Alaska, and so, like, that's been something that's been buzzing around in my head. And after doing the race in Antarctica this year, and I've run and won a marathon at the North Pole, like, I've kind of opened up my eyes to doing some more cold weather stuff. And so that's kind of something that I'm kicking around in my head if I want to try to tackle for 2018. So
very cool.
I think in February. Oh man, it would be so cool.
Yeah.
So I need to reach out to them. I just learned that you have to kind of apply soon. So I'm looking forward to, like, seeing if that's possible, and then seeing, like, what it entails, and if I have the proper qualifications and all that kind of stuff.
actually has been on the podcast twice. You can look him up on my website, but his name's Kyle McCoy. He's run it before, but he just did the Fat Tire Bike 300-mile race this past winter. So if you want, I could put you in touch with him if you have any questions.
I'll have to listen to it.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
He says he likes he likes the extreme weather races. So he does a lot of desert and he does a lot of cold weather stuff. So I'm happy to put you in touch with him if you have any questions or anything about that. But
awesome. Yeah, that'd be amazing. Yeah, I'd love to talk to him.
Awesome. So, Michael, thank you so much for your time today. I mean, it's really cool to hear about your stories of all these races and your upcoming races. It's really an exciting 2017 and 2018. You're already starting to plan for that. So very exciting stuff. So thank you so much for joining us on here.
No problem, man. It was a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for listening to the Intelligent Racer Podcast. For more information on this and other episodes, please visit www.intelligentracer.com. Also, be sure to check us out on social media and please review us on your podcast directory. Join us next time for another edition of the Intelligent Racer.